Hi everybody and welcome to my kitchen. I'm doing the third video on the series of making bread, and this video is actually going to take a while to put together because I'm going to take you step by step from making the leaven to baking the bread. So this is going to be the first part of bread baking. The first video we caught wild yeast. Second video we started about your starter, maintaining it, and then we talked about a little bit of leavening. So just to make sure I've got everything, we're all on the same page, because I know these videos are kind of discombobulated, but it's just me in my kitchen showing you what I do. I'm not a pro here. So I just want to make sure that we got some things clear. Okay. This is the starter, the mother, the chef, whatever you want to call it. She should always smell good. She is extremely active, bubbly on top. She's starting to go flat. So she's actually ready right now to move into our next stage. So this is the starter. Our next stage is going to be developing our leaven. And our leaven is what we're going to use to rise our bread. Okay, it's in place of baker's yeast. We're going to use the leaven. It's going to go in your dough, and your dough will make your bread. And now sourdough gets a little confusing. So I've told you over and over in the two videos, I don't measure, but I thought, well, that's just not really fair to y'all. So I went and picked up a recipe for leavening, because you want to make sure you have enough leaven, that whatever it calls for in your recipe, that you have enough of it. So I said, all right. So I've got a couple of books. I think it's Ed Wood. He's a great author on sourdough. But anyway, I wanted to take you through the process of making the leaven. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow that recipe. And what that calls for, turn my back, and what that calls for is 1 tablespoon of your starter. Aha, Sheila, you looking good this morning. So there it is. Don't forget, you've got to feed Sheila. So we're putting it, oh, I got you a little high. Let's put you down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so we're putting the 1 tablespoon of starter in here. Got to get me a spatula. Because she's awful sticky, so I got to kind of dig her out of there. All right. And I'm measuring it. I'm mixing it in a measuring cup, and I'm going to put it in a glass bowl, glass jar. I am not doing words well this morning. Okay. So the next thing it calls for is 1/3 cup of water. And I thought I was going to be smart and try to get some of the sourdough off that spoon, but not working so well. That's okay. And of course, this is my Texas spring water from HEB. So 1/3 cup in there. You know, I always like to put the water in first and stir it up, no matter what part I'm on. Feeding Sheila, making my leaven, or making my bread, whatever. I like to get it, the starter or the leaven broken up really well. You can see it's all broken up. Now to that, we're going to add 1/2 cup of flour. Just throw that in there, and we're going to mix it up. Now this is your leaven. So this is what you're going to have to let set and do its thing, just like you would do a starter. Because right now, this is exactly the same as that starter right over there. But we're going to let this do its thing, and this is what we're going to throw into our dough when we start mixing it. A lot of people just take, they don't even bother with this process of making the leaven. Sometimes they do that process when they already have the dough. I'm telling you, sourdough has so many different ways and techniques that people do. So my main goal was with these videos was just to let people know that there's another alternative to yeast, and if you don't have bread and you don't have yeast, there's another alternative. So, oh man, that's good. Look at that. I can scoop it up for you. Look at that. And this makes for a really thick leaven, which is okay. So what I'm going to do with this, so I can watch it and mark it like I told y'all to do, I'm going to put it in this jar. without making a mess, hopefully. A little bit, not bad. This makes for a lot thicker leaven than I usually do. So this is kind of exciting. And the bread recipe I'm trying is a new bread recipe for me. So different techniques. So I thought, well, I'm showing y'all how to do it. I might as well learn something too. I'll just try something different. Okay. So all she is in there. Now I'm going to mark a line. I'm used to mine just kind of, it's more liquidy and it just goes right down. Okay, here we go. Time is 1:35. So I'm going to mark a mark right here. And I'm going to say 1:35. All right. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this rise until it gets to the stage where the dome is up and it's starting to go flat. And that's where I'm going to try to catch it to do the next process. So it's going to be just a couple minutes for you, but it's going to be a while for me. I plan on trying to take a few pictures so I can put it in the video too. So anyway, we're making our leaven. I'm going to feed Sheila, and then we'll be back to see you later. Good morning, everyone. As you know, yesterday I mixed up our leaven and I put it to the side so it could do its thing. And I marked it. I started at 1:35, went to a little after 7, a little after 9, and then 11:08. And that seems like where it topped out onto bed. And now it's starting to creep its way down. Remember that the prime spot is when it starts to rise, and when it starts to go flat and collapse is your prime time to get it. I might be a tiny bit past that, but it's okay. Here's the inside of it. I'm gonna let it pull down a little bit so you can see. Look at that. That is lovely. That is what you want to see. Okay, so the next step is we're going to mix the ingredients and then let it set for 4 hours. So this is the next step. And I remember I told you I'm trying this new recipe so I can give you ingredients. And the leaven that we made was supposed to be just enough leaven for this recipe. So I didn't measure it. It looks like it's about a cup maybe. Now, I don't like to waste anything, so this is the water, 2½ cups of water. I'm going to put some of it in here just to get that yeast out of here because I don't want to waste any of that. Because that's what's going to make our yeast bread rise. I know some people say you don't need that much. Some people say you need more. No hard written stone instructions about this. All righty. So for the time of the video, I'm just going to put this in there. And you know me, I like to put all my water in and dissolve all my leavening. I'm also going to add my salt in here right now. It calls for a tablespoon. I didn't quite put a tablespoon in there. Just sounded like a lot, but I'm not sure. I've got to taste the bread to see if it is going to be a lot. So I just put about 3/4 of a tablespoon in there. All right, and now, there we go. Now it calls for 5 to 5½ to 6 cups of flour. Why I say that's because every time you do this, it's going to be a tad bit different. So with bread, you usually get a range. So that's 1, 2, 3, and as you see, I'm not really being careful about how I measure it either. I'm just like scooping it out. 4, and I'm going to stop at 5 and do a little bit mixing. It's not going to look like your dough ball, like you think you're going to set it across to rise. It's going to kind of look shaggy. Look like something you're not really ready to rise, but this is got a big fancy word for it, but all it means is that you're hydrating the flour. This is the first process of that. Remember, I told you sourdough is not a quick bread. There are people out there who make sourdough a lot quicker. Sometimes they add a little bit of baker's yeast to it. Sometimes a little bit of baking soda. You find all kinds of techniques out there. All right. It is really watery. So I'm going to go in and add another half cup to it. And if you feel like you need to get in there with your hands, it's okay, you can. But instead of putting flour on your hands to mix it, put a little water. It sticks a lot less with water. All right. So I told you it was going to look really raggedy, shaggedy. But this is where I'm at. And I'm not going to make you sit here and watch the whole time I mix this. So I'm going to show you where I'm at. I'm going to mix it a tiny bit more and then put a cover on it. And it's going to set for 4 hours. And in 4 hours, I'll come back and show you what we've done and what has happened to it. Remember, this is the stage we're just letting all the flour hydrate. And it's called some fancy word, auto something. So anyway, here we are. I told you, shaggy looking. So anyway, we'll be back in 4 hours. Okay, guys, welcome back. It's been 4 hours since I made this dough. And look what it looks like. Now, it's still really sticky dough, and that's okay. What we're going to start now is a series of, some people call it folding, where they take it out and they pull it and they fold it from all directions. I just mess with it. So this is going to start as 6 times. I'm going to mix it in the bowl. Mix it up. Some people fold it, and then it'll rest 30 minutes, and then I'll come back and do it again. So that's going to be over a period of 6 times. So I'm going to show you the one, and then I'll come back and show you when it's all done, so you don't have to sit here and watch this. So I like to get my hands a little wet, because wet sticks less. Don't add more flour, because we've already got the flour hydrated, and you'll add a little flour to mold it in a little bit. So right now, a little water on your hands, and I just go in there, and yep, it's going to be sticky. Okay, so I go in there and I just take it to the side and I put it to the middle. Take it to the side, put it to the middle. Roll my hands around, pull it up to the center. Hands around, I move the boat too. And that is all I'm going to do. I'm going to do that 2 or 3 turns, and then I'm going to let it rest for 30 minutes. I'm going to do that a total of 6 times, and at the top of that, I'll be back with you. So in between my mixing or folding of my bread, I wanted to show you something else that you could do with the discarded starter off your when you go to feed your starter. And so this is a cup of discarded starter, which means I either have to throw this away or I bake something with it. So today I'm going to show you the sourdough chocolate cake, and it is delicious. It's not sour either. So I'm going to take you step by step. So in here is my dry ingredients, and that is 2/3 cup of cocoa powder, 1 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of espresso powder. That's all in here. Now over here, I'm creaming a 2/3 cup of butter and 1 2/3 cup of white sugar. And so I'm going to mix this together. Since you don't need to hear all that, I'll be back when I get through mixing this to add in the rest of it. Okay, I've got it all mixed up over here. It's really thick at this point because there's no liquid to it. And that's where I'm going to add it now. I'm going to add 3/4 cup of milk and a teaspoon of vanilla and 1 cup of sourdough starter. I'm going to get that mixed and I'll be back. Okay, I've got it all mixed up, and I wanted to show you me pouring it in. Isn't she beautiful? Now, of course, this is a greased and floured pan. I'm going to get all this in. I'm going to get all this in here, and then I'm going to cook it for 35 minutes at 350. So I'm going to finish scraping that and putting that in there, and I'm going to put it in the oven. Hopefully, I'll have it for you in just a few minutes. All right, guys, I got 2 things to show you. First is the cake is done. It smells amazing. Look at that baby. I wish somebody was here to eat it with me. Okay, the second thing I want to show you is I have mixed this regularly, and now it needs to sit here and just rise for about an hour. However, I've got to go with Robert, my husband, and we're going to go check on his parents. So I'm actually going to put this in the refrigerator, and that'll slow down the rise. Now the recipe calls for a 60-minute rest period, rise period. And by putting it in the refrigerator, I can add me an hour, maybe 2 on that. So when I get home tonight, I'll take it out of the refrigerator. I then have to let it come to room temperature, and then we will continue where we left off. Okay? See you later. I'll probably eat some cake. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I left you with this dough right here. I had folded it 6 times. Then in between each folding or kneading, I would let it rest for 30 minutes. Well, you're supposed to come in after that and get it ready to shape and do another rise. But we went to see Robert's parents, so I had to put this in the refrigerator, which is perfectly fine. Sourdough, there's a lot of tons of recipes, like I've always said, but it's also, if you want to slow it down, you can put it in the refrigerator and make it work around your schedule. So I took it out this morning to let it come up to room temperature, so it's just about right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it, I'll knead it, and then I'm going to divide it, and I'm going to put it in. And what I'm trying to do is, most sourdough bread you see, it's put into the little baskets and it's raised and it's done this pretty little way. But I'm trying to do it in a way that it was something that everybody might have, and people might have loaf pans. If you don't, you just make this into a ball and bake it in the oven. There's no cake pan. Just anything you have, you can use. So I'm going to knead this, and I'm going to get it in here, and then I'll be back with you to show you that. All right, I've got 1 loaf in my loaf pan, and it's just going to sit in there. Since it's still a little cold from coming out of the refrigerator, I'm going to let this set out probably 3 to 4 hours, and it's going to have to get me a good rise on it. And then I'm going to put it in the oven and bake it. But I wanted to show you just how simple what I did is I kneaded this dough ball up, and then I just went in there and squished it with my fingers and pulled out half. Because this is a real wet dough, and I like real wet doughs because it seems to me like it makes a moisture bread, better crumb. So anyway, all I did was take that ball of dough in my hand like this and put it right into that loaf pan. Being wet, it's spreading out in there, and then when I set it out just to warm up and rise, it's going to fill that whole pan up. So I'll see you back in 3 to 4 hours or in just a second. Okay, guys, we're at the finish line. You saw when I put my dough into my baking pans, bread loaves, whatever you call them. And this is where this one is, and you can even see bubbles on it. Gosh, I hope you can anyway. Because I don't have my glasses on. So anyway, this is the first completed loaf. See the old black dot right there? That's a bubble that popped up. Now with sourdough, you usually take a razor blade and you slice it. And I did, but this dough is so watery, it didn't let me do it. It would just like close right back up. But I look in here as it baked, and I can still see where I tried to cut it. So anyway, it did turn out beautiful. So I'm going to put this second one in there, and I put the oven up to 500, and then I let it bake for about 15 minutes, and then I put it down to 450 and let it go for about 15 more minutes. Every oven's different. So I took the temperature, it was 190, so that means it's done. Oh, I wanted to show you the back of this one. It's really pretty. And it's pop it out. Look at that. And then that's the top of it. And you might be able to see kind of where I tried to slice it right there, and it buckled up. You slice it because when it starts to expand, if you don't give it a place to open up and expand, it's going to bust out the sides or bust out wherever it needs to do. So I'm going to get this one in the oven, and we're going to eat on this one tonight. So that's the last of my How to Make Bread series. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it wasn't a professional video, but I hope you got something out of it. And we made pancakes, sourdough cake, And tomorrow we might be making some donuts, and I will videotape it if I do. My daughter is standing right there trying to stick her head in the video. You might see her. There's her little head. There she is. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.